All right, Mech Warriors, welcome back to another edition of the Outpost. Today we're going to talk about a really awesome hovercraft, scout, speedster, objective grabber, escort, whatever you want to call it. And that is the J Edgar MG variant. It is a 24-point conventional vehicle. It's a hovercraft with a TMM of 4 and a move of 22, which is pretty awesome. It also has a damage output of 210, which is equitably awesome. It has a armor of 3 and a structure of 2 for a total HP of 5. Its abilities include Searchlight, who cares, and a turret of 210, which is also sweet because it can get 360 firing, and what you really want because you're going to be flying across the board with this thing. The pros, that TMM4 is a super pro, and that 22 hover movement is also a big time pro. That 2 shots at close range is awesome. Because it doesn't have 2 shots at medium range, it trims some points to make it a little more efficient. And this thing wants to be, up in your face anyways, getting rear shots. And so being able to put 3 shots out essentially at short range for 24 points is pretty great. The 5 HP is also great. There's some other fast hovercraft out there, like the harassers and things like that. They're down to 4 HP. There are other ones out there that only have 3 HP. And this one is rocking 5, and it's armor forward, which is great. It's also ubiquitous if you're inner sphere or periphery, which is another plus. So basically everyone can take it. The cons, it's not crit resistant. That's kind of a bummer. If it gets hit, it can have its ammunition go off. It's also hovercraft. So I've had, you're going to run into problems with taking the motive hits. And the medium range damage of 1 isn't great. But if you can find yourself in the rear of something at medium range, it's not terrible because you can get it up to 2, and it has the speed to get there. But 1 damage at medium isn't the best in the world. You kind of wish it was 2, but the way you're going to run these things is you're not going to really be engaging at 2. The philosophy use on this thing is going to be objective grabbing. This thing is a fly across the board, grab objectives. It's also going to threaten and push your opponent where they don't want to be threatened and pushed, and he's going to have outsized impact on dictating your opponent's mood and behavior at the table. Because he's only got that 1 at medium, makes a great spotter. So if he's not within short range and it's just 1 shot and you got some indirect fire, great spotter option. Because you can basically get him wherever you want. He has a high TMM, so it's really difficult for your opponent to decide to put shots on him, especially since he's got that 5 HP. He makes a really good escort for other heavier hovercraft. I like to run them in conjunction with Drillsons and Maxims that have a little more weight and a little more firepower, but this thing can kind of protect that heavier hovercraft or protect some of your other mechs. And then he can also be a really good mobile threat and mobile reserve. Because he's got that speed to be able to get from one side of the board to the other side of the board, over here, over there, and respond to problems that develop as the game goes on, or take advantage of holes that open up in your opponent's line. He can really draw your opponent's attention off as he threatens objectives, and he can also draw their attention just because he's got that 2 damage at short. And if he's getting in the rear and getting in close, it can be really rough. Models, there are plastic ones from CGL now, which are awesome, and Ironwind metal ones, which are awesome. The one on the screen is Ironwind metals because I bought a ton of them before CGL had plastics. And if all you're wanting is J Edgars, I think if you go to Aries, them J Edgars are 2 for $10. It's cheaper than buying the plastics and singles from any of the guys selling on eBay or reselling on Facebook. So and they're really good. I don't see any problem with them. They're as good as the CGL ones, which is saying a lot because a lot of the Ironwind metal ones are not as good as the plastics, but this is a rare exception. Notable variants. So I classify the variants into 3 categories. Count that, 3 categories. One is TMM3 mechs. So these are not mechs, J Edgars. So the TMM3 J Edgars include the LAC variant and the ICE variant. I would never take these. They're TMM3. They're only move 16, so you're losing 6 inches of movement, and you're losing a TMM, and you're only saving 4 points. I just don't think it's worth it for 20 points. I think you can get a harasser for around that and have your TMM up a little higher and at least get some more damage output. They still have the the same amount of body, the same amount of health, but they are 1/1. So I just don't like them. I just think they're not worth your time, energy, and or effort. So I would probably avoid them. The next category is, I call them category 2 J Edgars, and these are TMM4 mechs, but that don't bring that 2-shot at short range. So your category 2s are going to be just the stock J Edgar hover tank. So it's same speed, same TMM, but it's a 1/1. So you're losing out on that 2, and you're only shaving a point. I just don't think that's worth it at all. Same goes for the flame variant. The flame variant would be sweet if it had heat, but it does not. So it's basically just a carbon copy of the regular old hover tank, and you're only saving a point to drop that 1 shot at short range. Not worth it in my book. There's the cell variant, which of any of these, I think the cell is probably the one I would consider the most. You're shaving many more points. You're shaving 4 points off the MG variant because it's 20 points. You're still at team M4. You still have that speed. Your attack profile, though, is 1-0 star. So if you really just wanted an objective grabber and you were fine, and something that spotted and grabbed objectives but really didn't have any damage threat, I think this is an option. It does have a good amount of health still at 5, and that TMM4 is not bad, but I still probably wouldn't take it. I'd probably go look at other options if I really needed to shave 4 points out of my list, and probably not take this. But it's something to consider if you're really just wanting like a really fast, beefier objective grab, or something better than like a Skimmer or a Gabriel or a Savannah Master. The category 3 J Edgars, they're TMM4, but they bring 6 hit points to the game, and they usually have something else. And so those are going to include, for example, the tag. So as you can tell by the name, it brings tag, but it's TMM4, speed 22. It's 1/1, but it's got 4 armor, 2 structure, which is pretty awesome. And it's bringing tag, and it's E&E, so it has some crit resistance into it. The next one's going to be the Karita variant. It's 35 points versus the 30 on the tag, so you're spending a little bit more, but it's 2/2, which is pretty good. It's also got that 6 HP, but it's bringing C3 slave system. So, if you're, and energy weapons, so it's crit resistant, and it's got the C3. So that's pretty, that's not terrible, like, way to get. Like, this thing's got 2 at short, so it wants to be at short, shooting in the rear arc already. And then if you have a C3 network like that is supporting it, this thing can, and it has some survivability with that TMM and that armor structure. So this one is something I think I would consider if I was running a C3 list. I just think it's pretty. It's worth taking a look at. The next is the chemical version. It's 32 points, so it's a little cheaper than the Karita, but a little more than the tag. It's 2/2. It doesn't have energy weapons, but it's got 6 health. So if you want to have that extra shot at medium and you want to have a little more health, I don't think it's the worst option in the world. You think you run like a drill sin, it moves 18, it's only TMM3, and it only has 2 shots at medium. Like, this isn't that much more than that. It might be something worth considering. I don't know. It's not the worst in the world. The next is the light PPC. I would never take this. It's 27 points. It has the speed, it has the health, but it's 1/1/1. And something that's fast in Alpha Strike, I just don't see you getting much value out of that one long range shot. It does have energy weapons, though, for whatever it's worth, but I would not take it. And the last is the 32-point X Pulse. It's stripped down. It has no E&E. It's 2/2. Short, medium, and then it's got the 4/2 armor structure. All these are turreted, of course, and I think all the weapons are in the turret, which is pretty awesome. But I'd probably avoid that X-Pulse. J Edgars are awesome. I think they're, the other thing about the J Edgar is, especially the MG variant, is it's available in a lot of different eras too. So it's something like, if you are not wanting to spend a ton of money and you want to have something that you can use across tournament scenes, if their tournaments are era specific, like, buy a couple J Edgars. I always get a pack of 2 from Aries for like basically every like company I build, just because I know I'm going to need hovercraft at some point, and the MG variant is just such a like staple go-to. So if you're not running these things, I think you should be, or you should be considering them at a minimum. I know there's other options out there. Like I think, in later eras, the Fox armored car is kind of nice because you can shave a couple points, and it's basically the same stats, but you lose a point of structure. So you can like save a couple points with that Fox armored car, and it's basically just like a kind of like a lighter J Edgar. And there's other comparable things out there, but this thing with that, it just has this like nice sweet spot. Like the harassers all too often just don't have the HP, and that 5 HP with that team of 4, it just feels like it's got 7 or 8 hit points, and then that 2 at short range just really, really does work at threatening your opponent. They cannot let you run around in the backfield. Like if it's just one shot, it's like, okay, this thing's kind of annoying, right? It's getting 2 shots on my rear, but I can kind of ignore it. When it's 2 shots and it's doing potentially 3 damage every turn, it gets to be really stressful having to like manage that on the board. And like I said, he's really good at escorting and like protecting things and acting as a mobile reserve because he actually has a little firepower to dish out, and he's got that move of 22, so you can basically like you can relocate him to like problem spots on the board or spots that need to be exploited. So uh, let me know in the comments below your experience running J Edgars. Otherwise, may the blessings of Blake be upon you.